I had a friend in college who I had multiple friends in college that sold weed, and one of them was more of an acquaintance who was the roommate of one of my close buddies. And this guy sold like, quaps, pounds, like big amounts of weed. And so my buddy's like, I'm like, you can at least smoke us out for free and everything while we live here, because we're taking a big risk being on a college campus here while you have this amount of weed. Like, we're all going to jail. Yeah. And so we just had free weed for a while. And when I would pop by, maybe I get a little free weed. And it eventually got to the point, he's like, yeah, my buddy was like he was a weed dealer, and he, kind of fell out of interest with weed and enjoyed like uppers and that kind of stuff, and like prescription pills. And so sometimes I'd be hanging out, and then he'd text me and be like, I'm not home right now. Stevie's coming by to pick up a quarter ounce. Can you give it to him and, weigh it out and pay? And he's like, and so I said, yeah, I gotta help him out. Hey, Taylor's coming by to pick up an eighth. Oh, I know Taylor's one of my good buddies. Do this. And he's like, after a couple months of that, it got to the point that like, I was just dealing large amounts of drugs to further and further, tangentially related people, until it was like, hey, my buddy Davon is coming over to pick up a half pound. Can you give that to him? He's like, no, I can't do this anymore, man. I can't be roped into your seedy world.
There's a guy named Sergeant Murphy on his way over. You help him out.
He said he's like, and everything was going smooth for a long while, until one day he got fucked up on pills, and there were a bunch of people over, and so he didn't buy a safe for some reason. And so he just had 2 pounds of marijuana under his bed. And he was so fucked up, he forgot that he hid it. And so the next morning he came down screaming and accusing all of us of having robbed him. And we had to sit him down and be like, where would we sell the drugs from? Where would we do the drugs? We live together. What do you think we have to gain here by robbing you of 2 pounds? And he's like, and like 5 minutes later, went upstairs, found his weed, and came back down and was like, big misunderstanding, guys. I didn't mean to do that. And yeah, so that's how he played a little bit of a role in a drug dealing ring. And then
he was a drug dealer.
He was actually a drug. He was okay. Yeah, that's how he was a drug dealer.
Yeah, I'm just helping out. I just like helping my friends, Your Honor.
I just like to help him out. That is true.
In exchange for money.
He did.
I heard one of those morning radio shows where, like, if your date doesn't go well, you call in to like the cruise crew, and they'll call up this guy who stiffed you or whatever, and the lady's like, "Yeah, I don't understand. Mark and I had a great time. We went out dancing. We got some drinks, and then nothing." And like, all right, we're gonna call this Mark up and see what his fucking problem is. And Mark's like, "Hello? Did you go out with a Kathy last night?" Yeah, I did. And you didn't call her back or anything. It's been a week. Yeah. We went out dancing, and then she wanted to go get some more drinks, which seemed cool. And she said, "Hey, could you take me to Target real quick?" Which I thought was weird, but sure, I took her to Target. But then she wanted to meet her friend, and he was parked way at the edge of the parking lot, which was weird too. And she said, "Hey, he's got something for me." And I reached out the window, and he handed me a bag of cocaine. And I looked at her, and she handed me a wad of money. And I, in that moment, became a cocaine buyer. Forcibly. He's like, "I got a job and shit. That's not me. That's not my life." And they're like, "Why would you tell us this if you're literally buying cocaine?" She's like, "It's not that big of a deal. It's just coke." It's, what the fuck? But yeah, that's what happened to your friend. He got forced into being a drug dealer.
He did. Yeah. Got bullied into it, and then did it, I guess, for months.
Moved a lot of weight.
Moved a lot of weight, seemingly.
If it was an Xbox game, he'd have had some achievement points at this point. Like he's moved a lot of.
Yeah, he's a capo.
Yeah.
How about that, you guys? You guys ever been drug dealers?
I was at
Obviously.
I was staying
Allegedly.
at my friend's house. I was staying at my friend's house up in Mendocino, or a friend of his, and I didn't want to sleep on the couch. They're like, "Don't worry, you don't have to sleep on the couch." I'm like, okay, we got a room for you. There's a problem with the room though. It was harvest season, so weed. Everybody up there grows weed. It was harvest season, and the room kind of smells like weed. So if you're okay with that, and I said, "Yeah, that's fine." So I get up there, and they're like, "All right, everyone's partying all night. Time to go to bed. Okay, here's your room." And they open the door, and it's trash bags from floor to ceiling around all 4 walls of the room, full of weed, closets full of weed spilling out like a grain silo. Like, what do you mean kind of smells like weed? Like, well, you know, it does kind of smell like weed a little bit. Yeah, okay, great. This will be great. I think the tips of my hair around this part still reek of weed from when I was there, but that was fun.
That's okay. You're in California. Everyone probably stink.
I've never seen that much weed.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, the most I ever saw in one place. I was dating this girl, and one of her friends came to hang out with us. Actually, two of her friends came to hang out with us, and so me and my girlfriend in the front seat, they're in the back seat, and the girl in the back goes, "Check out what I got," and she pulls out like a fucking full-on pound of vacuum-sealed weed out of her bag, and I lost my mind. Like, why are you in my car with a pound of? I have never in my life seen an ounce, and you have more marijuana than I've ever seen in one place. I was so upset. I pulled that fucking car over. She had to get out of the fucking car. It's like, you're gonna wait here. We're gonna go get your car. We're gonna bring it here. You're gonna get in your car with your stuff, whatever it was I saw in that bag, those lawn clippings or whatever it was. And you can follow me places, but you can't be in my fucking car with a fucking backpack full of marijuana. That was the most I'd seen before I went to like Colorado after they legalized and opened up. And then, of course, that was like some sort of Mecca experience where you've only seen like tiny bits of just who knows what strain. It's weed. And then all of a sudden you're at like the nicest store with iPads for each strain, scrolling and automating this video about how it was grown and what the percentages of cannabinoids of it are. And like, that was cool. That the first time going to Colorado and getting high was so cool.
Most weed I've ever seen. I was a teenager and I was a lifeguard, and some of the lifeguards would like rent a house together, and that's where they stayed for the summer. Anyway, I go over and they're like, "Woody, check this out." And they open a closet door, and there's a little fucking grow lamp hanging like where the rack should be, and 4 plants, each of them 3 or 4 feet tall. I guess ready to harvest ish.
Okay.
So I don't know how much that is.
Yeah, I don't either. I've never seen plants in real life. I don't think ever. I
saw that at a guy's house, and it was like news was like happening that like Missouri was going to legalize weed like in the next couple months. And he's like, "Check out my grow." And it's like 6 giant plants with an enormous amount of weed. And I just wanted to be like, what are you thinking? Like, you're taking an untold amount of risk here when in 6 weeks you could just go to the store. You could just go to the store and buy it.
Is it legal to buy? Can you grow it now?
I think you can grow like a personal amount now in Missouri.
It varies per state on how many plants that one person can grow, and it'll even change like under one roof. Maybe like you can't have like 12 people in your house, maybe, and growing 48 plants, something like that. But it's one of those things where you don't have one marijuana law. It's state by state. It's like here in Georgia, I'm pretty sure marijuana oil, like for medical use, has been legalized for a while, but there's no way to access it. There's zero access to it. It's like, okay, it's legal. Where do I procure it? From a licensed procurement center.
New Jersey
those don't exist
that for a while.
Do you guys have ketamine doctors now? All these fucking shamans are popping out of the woodwork.
Woody's in the K-hole right fucking now, dude.
Oh,
yeah, ketamine doctors are dope.
Are you really on that stuff?
Not
like,
right
you do
now.
Therapy on it stuff, or you just pop it like an ad?
Yeah, no, I did. I went to they're not a sponsor or anything, but the company was called Mind Bloom, and it was a pretty positive experience for me. A friend of mine tried it. He said it didn't do anything good for him, but for me, it was a pretty positive experience. Just sort of I don't know, alone with your thoughts without second guessing, sort of figure things out.
Mental self-audit.
I like that expression. Yeah. And, make some plans, things that might be obvious, obviously good plans, like spend time with Colin type stuff. But you do it like right down. It's like spend time with Colin, but don't forget you have these other things in the way. Nothing's in the way when you're in the K-hole. Everything is just a good idea that needs to be written down and followed through on. And it was pretty
opposite of Adderall. Everything's a bad idea.
I hate it. I hate
written down and actioned on.
And that always makes me spill food all over myself. Ketamine. I don't know if you're not. I didn't have a shaman to tell me how to do it, but every time I do ketamine, I'm like, okay, no spilling food on yourself. And then I wake up. Oh my god, I fucking did it again.
We have a very different experience. I'm like, I don't eat for I think it's 3 or 4 hours beforehand. 1 hour beforehand, I'm taking an anti-nausea drug. It comes with the pack. They give you this like super high end. Yeah. They get like a super high end blindfold. I have a heated blanket, a scented candle in the dark room, and I just go into
like
my
FDR.
little
FDR pack, a quilted blanket.
So he goes deep. He's doing some auditing. He's going in there. He's going as deep as you can go, and he can up his dose. You know, he can talk to him about. I think I need a little more. I want to go deeper down the rabbit hole.
That's what happened. For numbers, I started out at like it was 400 or 450, I think, and I was like, it worked, but I kind of felt like this is how I described it. I was like, you're drinking as a teenager, and then like an authority figure comes in the room and you suppress your drunkenness. I was like, I don't want to be suppressing my drunkenness. I don't want to be asking if I'm like leaning into this or really feeling it. And she's like, we got you. And they change it from 450 to 800 and then 1,000. So like, you know, they doubled it and then some.
Yeah.
And
white girl setting.
yeah. So like there's no fucking around. And also like, I didn't know how to take it or what. They give you all the advice. There's a blood pressure cuff that comes with it. So, you know, you're in a good spot for it.
Yeah. See, I'm glad they did that because that's how I feel about all drugs. Because I remember the first time I did mushrooms and we didn't have enough. We had like an 1/8. And then I think what we tried to do was do 2 doses twice with an 1/8, which just isn't enough. Like, you know, whatever that fucking is. But
yeah,
colors were a little. I remember we went to the park on the mushrooms and it was like, I guess, you know, when you tinker with your TV and you can't remember if you turn the saturation up or not, but those greens are popping. That's what it was like. It's like, all right, green's green, really green. That's cool. But that's not what I was going for. I want to see some shit. When I finally took acid and I took all that acid, I was like, okay, I am undeniably high as fuck on acid right now. It like incapacitated, couldn't drive a car without seeing weird shit. The moon is breathing on acid. And it was like, this is fun. Like, that's what I want.
Mushrooms
you tried to drive on acid?
No, I'm just hypothetically speaking. Like,
oh man,
like,
give it a shot. I drove us home from a park because the acid. I was with my girlfriend at the local, dog park, and the acid kicked in right when these kids started tearing apart this goalpost. I'm like, we got to get out of here. I think they're gonna tear us apart next. She's like, all right, and I'm like, I'll drive. I'm good to drive. I've been a long time drunk driver. I have a pass from Biden that says I can drunk drive whenever I want.
You too?
Let's go. Yeah. It's cool. I'll copy and send it to you. Somebody copied and sent it to me too. It's
just
still
download
valid.
it off the internet.
It's valid.
It's still valid. So we get in the car and I'm like, and the car, it starts like, I'm like, oh man, this is bad. How long have I been driving? And she's like, you haven't pulled out yet. And I'm like, oh man,
Dude, this is bad.
This is bad already. So we're driving and it's like, it just feels like, how that acid, that whump you get every once in a while where everything like that Matrix, like when he goes, he flexes
in the mirror. Yes.
And it just won't unflex. You're like, oh God. And I'm driving like that. And it just doesn't seem to be going through it. And after a while, I'm sweating and I'm like, I've taken this right turn 5 or 6 times at least. There's 2 rights. I know the way back to the house. I could do it drunk. I know, but I've made this turn 6 or 7 times. And I'm like, honey, I think we're stuck in a time warp or something. She's like, I'm so glad you said something. I think we seriously are. It was like it was the worst. It was probably the worst 5 minutes I've ever had on any drug.
Dude, you need to get into a bedroom with a heated blanket, weighted blanket,
acid,
a scented candle. Yeah, I don't know. Acid. Here's my acid question. I always have these drug questions.
I need to jack off like I'm on fucking meth like that, dude. I'll wear my dick off on acid.
Blow off some
fucking elf.
I've never done a drug that doesn't have like some level of nausea to sort of battle. Even edibles have that, none.
Not only did acid have none, and I like took 1 and then like maybe 45 minutes took 2 and then like maybe 45 minutes took 3 and then at 3 I was like, just give me all of them and got to 4 or 5. But at no point did I feel nauseous. In fact, I was hungry. I remember that's when I tell that story about eating that delicious donut. We had a maple bacon donut delivered from this, and it had like really fancy bacon on top, and it was crispy. And I just remembered that was so fucking delicious. And no nausea. And that's always my fear too. Like with, because I'll get nauseous on any number of things, and that just ruins the whole experience. I always get like if I drink too much, I get so nauseous. The whole night's fucking ruined. I'm just.
I've been there for that.
Yeah, it's all. Yeah, sure. Plenty of people have. I had a problem.
You know what acid has that's great is another benefit is at least for me, the farting. There's like a stage, I don't know, like 2 hours in. Oh man,
that.
I sound like the Blazing Saddles camp. For like an hour and a half. Like, I'm like, man, this is awesome. Thank God we got the sex out of the way because this would really fuck
acid
up.
to me is the best drug as long as you don't have to operate any vehicles or machine or anything like that, or be expected to like fight for your life or do anything where you need to be you because you're not capable.
I know we're on the air, but like, how did you find it? How did you find somebody?
Oh, like friends got it for me.
Okay.
That's the way it always goes.
Yeah. Right
like,
now, I'm curious about it. I'm very curious, but I don't want to grab my skateboard and just hello fellow kids it down at the school.
Please do.
Yeah.
Milk it out of bums in LA. You just soak their hair and then just wring it out. Just drop it.
Is there
it doesn't come from their nipples?
Go up to them and go up to the kids and do like the "What's up" from the 2001 Bud White commercial.
They'll hit it back.
Dude, they love that. Yeah. Dude, this guy in his Gene Code Jeans seems pretty legit.
That's cool, man. He's not sus at all.
Are those pogs? Yeah.
Button fly jeans. Wow, you're 1988. Awesome.
LA gear and a skateboard, you'll fit right in. Yeah, it was just a friend brought it. I'm sure they got it from somebody. It's really cheap and it's really small, and it's just little pieces of paper. Like a mat. It's a big square that tears into tons and tons of tiny squares, and I think they dip that whole thing in acid and then let it dry, and so each one of them is now dosed.
I wonder if it's complicated to make.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anything
You
about
gonna make it? You got a chemistry set over there with your ketamine, Woody?
Yeah, I've been keeping a coral reef tank. We got a microscope. We got some ingredients here and there.
Yeah.
I'm mixing up sodium hydroxide and calcium carbonate on the daily. Why can't I
keep a goldfish alive? You can make LSD. Let's go.
Quick stop by the pool store, get all your equipment, and you're good to go.
Make some semen blowing acid while you're at it. What are you guys doing that stuff that you're always selling?
To weaponize your semen. Ooh. We can weaponize our semen.
Yes. We already kind of have, with, I mean, I don't like weaponized semen. Weaponized semen sounds like you have AIDS.
Acidic semen.
That's what Dirty had, with all that Pepsi in his diet.
Yeah, but I want like truly acidic. Like I wanted to, like if you shot it in a cop's eyes, like he'd be like he wouldn't be able to fend you off at that point.
Why, if you stand there for 5 more minutes, you're in trouble.
And not a criminal's eyes. How much acid did you take before your harrowing drive?
Oh, like a half, probably. Like none. 1, maybe. I don't go crazy. I think 1's too much, honest. That's what freaks people out. I always dilute it in like a water bottle.
Like it's important to me. Like that was the first time I done it, and I really wanted to like see a thing that wasn't there for the first time in my whole life. Because since you're a kid, that's what cartoons make beer seem like.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, he drank beer. He sees pink elephants flying. And so you go get drunk waiting for the fucking light show and nothing happens, but a headache and throwing up on the seat. And then every drug after that was the same thing, marijuana. And then they said that about mushrooms. Mushrooms don't make you see things. It's like changing the contrast and the saturation on your television. That's what happens to me anyway. And I get nauseous as fuck. But acid, I was seeing shit move around. There was shit that wasn't there. There were colors that weren't there that were just happening. Like I was looking at a picture of a clown that was creepy. Painting of a clown that happened to be in like the rec room at that house, and its face was wiggling and like
mushrooms will do that for you too if you take enough.
What an awful painting to have around on hallucinogens.
It was upsetting a little bit.
You stared at the clown painting?
I stared at whatever I could to like get different experiences because every interesting object becomes a kaleidoscope that you can walk up to like and sort of experience. The moon was my favorite thing. It was a night where there were fast moving clouds moving between me and the moon. Obviously, it was a full moon. And I don't know, it was like a horror movie, the way the clouds are just moving past it and it's sort of translucent coming in and out of focus. And that was amazing to stare at. And then we had a fire going outside. So watching fire and embers on acid.
Fire's neat. So
that was fucking cool. But
Taylor
just your phone. Just your
into
phone
something
is cool.
important. The whole set and setting thing. If you guys listening have never done any kind of psychedelics, set and setting is your mindset and the like place. And Kyle describes a really great experience where he was with good friends in a good place where there was not very much that was scary, and got to experiment with the effects of it. Had he been at like a nightclub surrounded by strangers, he might not have had a good time.
Yeah, maybe not. That could have been weird. I
could be a unique person too with acid, because you also said you ate a bunch of food on acid.
Tons of it.
And
yeah.
I've always heard from, I've never done acid, but everyone I've talked to who's done it is like, oh yeah, I don't eat on it. Like it's gross.
See, the whole group did the acid, and like 4 or 5 of us at least, and we all ate the donuts. You know, like Fish ate donuts. He was on acid, allegedly. You know, as far as I know. And but there were, I don't know. It didn't affect my appetite, but bar none, that is my favorite drug to do. If I could only do one drug, I would do that drug. I have read and heard that you need to do that drug like maybe once a month, because you're releasing a lot of brain chemicals or something that need to rejuvenate before you dump that supply again. So that makes sense.
Maximum. Oh, once a month.
The one,
yeah.
I asked somebody on Reddit recently, they like Molly, and I was like, I've heard that Molly is borrowing the joy from the next 2 or 3 days and having it all condensed into tonight. Does that sound right? And this is just a Reddit stranger, but they're like, yes, 1000% true. That is how it is. So
I don't. It hits some people pretty hard where they're in bed all day. I could do. I could do Molly like I could drink. I wake up like, yeah, let's go. All right, I'm in an even better mood today because I'm not functioning at peak.
But that's on the Molly, right? Or are you talking about the day after? Because the day after,
people have people are always talking about those hangovers, but I don't know. I think my joy is already so low that it can't go any lower.
His secret, he's always joyless.
Yeah, I'm like a lowrider. I'm like that.
Yeah,
I said the same experience with the acid. I had the same experience with the acid. Like I felt great the next day after all that acid. I wanted more. But like not in an addictive kind of way, but just like that was great.
Not in an addictive kind of way, but I wanted more.
Your dick if I can have a little more.
I just needed more, and I was willing to do anything to get
anything it took. And then we did a show where I took 1,000 milligrams of marijuana edibles, and I don't really remember that show, but I do remember having to go to the airport the next morning and still being so cripplingly high that just sitting in the back seat of the Uber, I forgot where I was for a while on the way to the airport and got terrified because there was an African man driving me in the dark and I didn't know where I was.
You thought you'd been kidnapped, perhaps.
That's what happened that night at Applebee's or whatever. I thought we'd been kidnapped for a brief moment. Like I got so high in the back of that.
Some Senegalese Uber pirates.
Yeah. Well, we were all just in a van together driving to Applebee's, and I'd never been to Chicago before. Maybe once or twice. I didn't know where the fuck I was though. And I got so high, and what had happened, we got a little bit lost, and we pulled into a residential neighborhood, and then into a house's driveway.
White boy had to pee. Yeah.
No, we're just doing a J turn. We're turning around and going back the other way. But to me, I come out of my stupor, and I'm being taken to a house in the dark in Chicago in a van full of people I barely know. I was real scared.
Yeah,
I was real scared.
That was a classic Kyle tale. It was like the first time we'd actually hung out for an extended period of time. It's like 2010. And like, I was like, oh, Kyle's a big pothead. I smoke pot. Like I smoked, and Kyle and I were walking in together, and he leaned over to me and he's like, this is the highest I've ever been, as he's walking in. And he was taking like, the Ministry of Silly Walks. Yep. He was walking like he was going upstairs with his knees.
Really high knees.
We were on a flat plane, so he looked like a fucking lunatic walking in. And I remember thinking like, all right, I don't look as high as this guy. Like,
yeah. No, I was high stepping because to my eyes, I remember this very vividly. The asphalt was so close. It was like you put someone else's glasses on and they make everything seem closer than it is. I had that effect. I was so fucking high.
That was too much. That was the night. Yeah, it must have been after Applebee's that like we got lost again, and White Boy said he had to pee so bad he just like got out and peed in the neighborhood.
I don't remember that. I have no memory of those events. Genuinely, no.
I do. It was like, you can't hold it, man. I don't think we're that far from where we're supposed to be. Yeah. Shout out to him. I hope he's doing well. I don't know anything about what White Boy's up to.
Yeah.
Still setting records, still setting nukes.
I don't think so.